Well, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Yes, I am on my phone. I'm trying to do something so I can show you something a little later in the broadcast. How are you? Good morning to you. Welcome to today's installment of Bathrobe Moments. I'm your host, Loren Michaels Harris, and today is Monday, the 18th of May, 2020. I'm so glad you're here. How was your weekend? By the way, everybody, how was your weekend? My weekend, I gotta get back here there. My weekend was not too bad considering the torrential downpour for most of it. Saturday was absolutely beautiful. It was a stunning day here in the greater Chicagoland area. I think it was right around 72. It was perfect. We went out and made our yearly trip to Mecca, otherwise known as the growing place, here in Naperville, where we went, and my husband and I, Brian, and we go every year. We look forward to it, and got our flowers and stuff, to put around the property and on the deck and all that stuff. And the place was so packed this year. They had it was like going to a Mariah Carey concert or something. I'm not kidding. People directing traffic. You couldn't get in from either direction. Long lines right out on the street. People parking in other neighborhoods and walking with their carts over to the place. I think this year we're going to see more beautifully manicured yards and landscaped yards than ever before because of this pandemic. So there's a good one for me. I love it because I'm very competitive. Very. I'm always looking to see what my neighbors are doing. There's this one guy at the end of my cul-de-sac. He never walks on my side of the street. Because he goes on his side and then he comes back on his side when he goes for his walks or jogs. Well, he crossed over to the dark side, my side of the street this weekend. He was like, "So, what you putting in?" If I could have laid across my flower bed to hide it, I would have but I would have crushed everything. So he's like, we're starting to put ours in. I could tell he was looking to see what I was doing. And he's also my nemesis that I compete with when it's time for Christmas lights. Every time I put something on, he goes put something more. Then I go put something more, then he goes and put something more. We're very competitive. So anyway, what you hear in the background is this. It's the bell of purpose, which means it's your opportunity during the broadcast to be a part of something bigger than yourself. We all have an innate desire to do that. So what this means is when our guest says something that's like, "Woo, good one, loving that," I'll ring the bell. That's your chance to show some love to our guest, or to maybe one of the comments you agree with or get behind when you see it on the screen. Just throw a bunch of hearts up. Let them know. Let them know today, David, our guest, or someone that you're sitting next to out there in the audience. Let them know that you appreciate all that they're dropping off and we're picking it up. If they like it, we love it. So today we are streaming across Facebook, YouTube, Roku, Android, Apple TV, Amazon Fire Stick, and of course, from our home base out in Phoenix, Arizona, that's E360 Television Live. And top of the morning to our sponsor for this week, it is Symposium.us, the app that allows you to turn your content into, that's it, cha-ching, moolah, into currency. Absolutely right. How do I know? I've done it over 20 sometimes myself over the last 3 years. To get over to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the app, Symposium.us. You can do anything that you're good at. If you're good at storytelling, yoga classes, cooking classes, whatever it is, you'll find a place where you can help someone else and make a little money. That's Symposium.us, where you can turn your cell phone into a payphone. Okay, so a couple little tidbits in the news this weekend and a little bit at the last part of last week. First of all, the governor of Hawaii has 2 words for you. Stay away. That's right. We found out just this weekend that the mandatory quarantine imposed by the governor of Hawaii is going to be extended throughout the end of June for any travelers coming to Hawaii. So, unless you plan on staying in a hotel or something that you pay for when you go there until they clear you, I'd heed those 2 words, stay away. That's Hawaii, everybody. Do you know it's been 40 years this week since Mount St. Helens erupted? I remember that. I was in Up With People when that happened. And I think I still have it somewhere, a little vial of the ash that came down from Mount St. Helens. It was a real big thing to get your hands on back then. Do you remember that? Mount St. Helens. Something new. Facebook just launched this past week, similar to Snapchat's Bitmoji. Facebook now has launched its own Bitmoji, where you can create your own avatars that are, I guess, instead of just the hearts and stuff that you can do, now you can create an avatar that looks just like you. So you have to get over and download the app in order to utilize that new feature. But there you go. We can never have too many things that look like us, right? I actually like the one I have on my iPhone. Yeah. Anyway, so who do we have today as a guest? We have David. Are you ready for this? Durebsky. Now you're going to see the name. You're going to want to say something different, but it's David D. Durebsky. Now, David is a practicing attorney in the New York area, a long distance runner who's completed 16, count them, 16 100-mile races. And he's the club president and area director for Toastmasters International, where he's given over 75 speeches over the past 3 years. During the pandemic, now this is what I love, because most of the guests that have been on here for the last couple of months are bringing something positive to this experience known as the pandemic. And what David is doing, listen up, listen closely. During the pandemic, David has been visiting clubs, Toastmasters clubs, all over the country virtually. And he's been to all 50 states in just 45 days, connecting with Toastmasters he would not otherwise have met. He's also visited a club in the Philippines, Australia, and he's been asked to be a keynote speaker for a club in India. So I happened to meet David when I was visiting the Toastmasters Club out of Frostproof, Florida, down there. I think it's Winter Haven, actually, the Winter Haven Club, but the guest who invited me lives in Frostproof, and I speak of Mandy Kitta. You might remember Mandy from a couple weeks ago. We had a special here on E360 Television where Mandy gave away all but $200 of her stimulus money to needy recipients. So that's Mandy. So it was a great time. Met David there, found he was very interesting. Took about 2 seconds for me to start private chatting him to let him know I wanted to get him on Bathrobe Moments to share his experience. So I'm not going to waste any more of this great time today. Let's get David in here. Hi, David.
Hey, Loren, how are you? Good morning.
I'm awesome. Good morning. I'm excellent. Wow. So you're just a busy bee.
Yes.
First of all, you run all these races. I just got a brand new knee the last week of January, and I just finished my last physical therapy appointment last week. This is my first week completely cleared, and it's nice to be able to do a little jog every now and then. Again, it's been years for me, but even if it's just on the treadmill, what a great freedom and benefit. I hope you appreciate it.
Oh, I absolutely do. And in fact, there's a beautiful park right now. I'm currently in Nashua, New Hampshire. And yeah.
Oh my God, I have friends there.
Do you really?
Yes.
What a small world.
I went there for their wedding. Yes, I love Nashua.
Yeah, no, it's gorgeous, isn't it? And
Yeah.
Mine Falls Park is a wonderful place to go jogging. There's a waterfall over there. There's like 7 miles of trails. I
Wow.
highly recommend it.
Now, but you actually live in New York, right?
That's right.
Okay, and you what kind of law do you practice?
I do securities. So I do a lot of insider trading, mergers and acquisitions, corporate governance, stocks and bonds.
Oh,
Yeah.
so you don't are you friends with Martha Stewart? You weren't involved in that, though. I'm just playing. I'm kidding.
No, Martha and I are not on a first name basis, unfortunately.
Ah, that's funny.
Or maybe fortunately is the
I was
case
gonna
might
say
be.
you better back that and flip it around.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so you're pretty active in the outdoors. I love that. I see. Here's a picture of
Yes.
you right here. Now, well, where are you there? Where's that at?
Oh, isn't that a gorgeous place?
It is.
Yes, that is in Vermont. And
Wow.
that was a 36-mile race that I did last summer, right before my birthday, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what is are you hooked on these 100-mile races? What's the deal?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, I a few back in around 2013, I wanted to lose some weight, and I was with someone who had been a runner for 15 years, and they got
Okay.
me into doing. Originally I would just go to the gym, I'd go on the treadmill, maybe do 3-4 miles, and that was it. And I just thought that's what you do. You get cardio in, and then you lose weight. But I started doing 5Ks and 10Ks, and I got hooked on it. It became addictive. And
Okay.
I worked my way up to a half marathon, a marathon, and then I wanted to push myself further. That's always just been a part of who I am. So I ended up doing a 50K, which is a 31-mile race, as opposed to a marathon that's 26 miles. And once I did that, the sky was the limit. I wanted to do 50
Right.
miles and then 100 and then multi-day races. I actually just completed a virtual 100.
And I see that's a race I can get in. I can get into that.
Yeah. You don't have to fly anywhere.
You don't have to do anything.
Well, you got to run it. You got to put in
Oh,
the
you
100
really do?
miles.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought you just sat there pretend had an avatar run for you or something. You mean
No.
that's not virtual? I'm just kidding. I'm
Instead of them
kidding.
setting up a course and you going out and running alongside people, you run in your neighborhood, you track the miles, you send them the GPS data.
Nice.
They
That's kind
certify.
of like I had a guy on the show a couple of weeks ago, Gerald. He's in the Navy down in Florida, and he has a thing called Chasing 1,000, where he's encouraging people to clock 1,000 miles by running or walking over the next year. And you do that. You turn in your data every day. So I was going to do it, but
Well,
anyway,
now you got no excuses.
I really don't. I really don't. So
You've been
I need to
cleared by
get
the
some kind of.
doctors. Your knee is good.
I need a Fitbit or something to track it. I don't have any of that stuff. Can you do that on their phone? Is there
You
something
can,
that?
yes. Yeah,
Okay,
there's a whole
see.
bunch of apps. The
Okay,
most popular is probably Strava.
Strava.
Yeah.
Okay,
But there's also there's
Strava.
Nike Run. There's a few others that, you can
Okay,
actually run with your phone. You can have it in a little armband.
okay.
Yeah, and you just start it. It's amazing. The technology the last 5 years has really improved.
Right. I agree. So Karen, are you really? I'm like, Karen's like, enough about the running. What kind of stocks do you recommend? I was just showing that people are like, hey, what do you know? Everybody's trying to get a leg up, especially now. Well, before we get into, I want to get into the Toastmasters thing. Let me ask you something, since you work in the stocks and stuff. So what do you feel about this economy and what's happened with the stock market, up, down, mainly down during the pandemic? And how long do you, in your world, how long do you feel it's going to take for us to write the course?
That is an excellent question, and that's something people all around me are asking, and that no one seems to have a really great handle on.
Mm-hmm.
I do think we're probably looking at a year or more
At
for things
least.
really truly recover. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs, and people are looking right now for positive news. Every time we hear something about a vaccine being tested, the stock market goes up because people start feeling safe that they can invest again, that there's going to be, a lot of it's going to depend on how the initial reopenings in all the states go.
Okay.
If there's a
Yeah.
major resurgence of the virus, if we have to turn back the clock and everyone's shuttered back home and the construction and manufacturing can't open up properly and we have to resort to just takeout, you're going to see more and more businesses closing permanently. And
Right.
even there's only so much money the federal government can give. To a lot of these businesses were already hurting before COVID, and now
That's true too. That's
yeah,
something
it's
people
only
aren't
been
talking about.
magnified.
Right. Right. So, David, when you visited these, what is it, 50 states, and I assume you went to 50 meetings.
Well, actually, I went to about 60 meetings because some states I did more than once.
Okay. Okay.
And sometimes I'd go to a club in a specific state, and they would say, "Hey, come to my club that's somewhere else in the state."
Somewhere else, yeah, because they were visiting as well. I get it. So, because we were both visitors at the club at Winter Haven where we met.
That's
so,
right.
I'm just curious. Did you have a chance to talk with people as you moved around the country virtually, like about, and how do you feel about the reopening of communities and whatnot? Do you think we're doing it too fast, or you think it's best to start and see what happens?
So it really depends on the state. It depends on how badly the states are impacted. I think each state is going to have a different barometer.
Okay.
But I do think they're on the right track. I mean, we do have to begin a reopening process.
Right.
And it's going to be up to people whether or not they feel safe enough. A lot of companies are allowing you to work from home indefinitely if you can. And they're not pushing workers to go back. As far as the businesses, the movie theaters, the restaurants, it's all going to take time.
Right.
And as I went around to different clubs, everyone was talking about COVID. I think I maybe went to 2 clubs where they never mentioned it.
See, yeah.
But it's on everybody's mind. There's no escaping from it. And a lot of the older folks are really scared, even when their clubs transition back to live meetings, to be able to go out there and risk contracting the virus.
That's interesting. My husband and I, Brian, I was just saying last night, what is it? Something we belong to. Well, I know my Rotary will be that way because so many of them are in that high risk age bracket. But there are a lot of things that people aren't going to just go running back into. I know I'm not. I'm going to wait. Yeah. I'm going to wait 30, I was going to say 30 years. I'm going to wait 30 days minimum. And just continue going to the essentials, the grocery store, that sort of thing. I don't know. I'm 57, so I'm right there. I can smell that line where, the older people are like already past it. I'm that close. So I'm not trying to go out like that.
I understand that. But I'll tell you something. What's really interesting is a lot of clubs, Toastmasters is a public speaking and leadership organization, and they tend to be fairly old fashioned because, they've been doing things the way they've been doing for decades.
Sure.
And a lot of them have been very reluctant to go virtual before this happened. There have been some clubs that have only ever met virtually, but it's a very small percentage.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There's some clubs that have never met in person.
That's correct. Yeah, there's a whole subset of virtual clubs. Yeah.
I did not know that. Now, why would a person, this is a rhetorical question, why would a person be interested in Toastmasters? Well, the first thing is you want to find your happy place. And I've been in Toastmasters since I was in my early 20s. First thing they told me when I arrived at Williams Air Force Base as a brand new Air Force member was you need to, in my office, I was in negotiations, base contracting, procurement. They were like, you need to come to our Toastmasters meeting. You sound like you'd be a great speaker. And I went and I fell in love, and here we are all these years later. So David, how long have you been in Toastmasters, and what drew you to it, and what's kept you there?
That's a very good question. So I've been in Toastmasters now for 3 years, which
is that all?
That's all. I know.
Wow.
I'm kind of on the fast track.
You are.
That's the thing, with me, just like with the 100-mile races, when I get into something, I get into it 110%.
Okay.
So I don't just sit on the sidelines. I want to be a club officer. I want to make a difference. Mm-hmm. I want to engage in outreach. And that's why this whole virtual journey has been a bigger part of that, because although we're socially distant, we don't want to be socially isolated.
Exactly. So what is it that you, because I want people that are out there, a lot of people are looking for things right now to help replace the things that obviously are not available. And I think that Toastmasters, even if we were back the way things were, it would still be one of the top 3 things I recommend people to at least check out.
It's wonderful. I'll tell you something. What drew me to the organization is hearing everybody's stories. people get up there, regular folk just like you and me, and
Mhm.
they give speeches, and the speeches can be anywhere. They can be 5 to 7 minutes. Sometimes they're 15 to 20 minutes,
Right.
but always you get to hear a lot of personal details about people. You learn who they are, and you connect with them in ways you really don't to the extent in any other organization.
Correct.
And you get to overcome your fear of getting up there and just talking.
Well, let's
And
talk about that. Was fear one of the shiny objects that drew you originally? Because a lot of people, I think it's like 90% of the population has a fear of public speaking. So was
so
that
to
as an
say,
attorney? Was that a thing for you, or were you just a natural and wanted to get into something that you loved?
no, I definitely wasn't a natural. I'll be honest, quite the opposite. People think, oh, attorneys, they're aggressive, they're not easily intimidated, they speak in front of big crowds all the time. But remember, the attorneys you see on TV that speak in front of a packed courtroom is only a very small percentage of attorneys. A lot of them do work behind their desk. When they meet, it's one-on-one with a judge. It's a
Right.
full deposition. It's a very small group. So to get up in front of even 20 people is not something most attorneys do on a regular basis. So I wanted to practice those skills. I've always been afraid of public speaking. The idea of I would just get up and I'd have, let's say, a speech like right here, be blocking my face. I'd be reading it from the top to the bottom, and I would just try to get to the bottom, finish it, and get off that stage as quickly as I can. I wouldn't make any eye contact. I didn't want to memorize everything. I was always insecure. I was afraid I'd forget, that I'd lose my
Hmm.
place. And Toastmasters really showed me that, it's not that difficult. You don't have to write and memorize a speech. You can make bullet points. They give you techniques. They walk you through it. It helps increase your job performance. It even increases just the way you talk to people one-on-one in
Yeah,
every environment.
I
And I
agree.
absolutely wanted to overcome that fear. And Toastmasters has been tremendous in helping me do that. And I started with one club. Now I'm a member of 3 clubs.
Really?
And yeah, and every club offers something different. No two are alike.
That's true. That's true. So I know, well, that's exciting. That's exciting. So how different are you now? Since in the 3 years, what would you say, David, would be your greatest achievement as a result of your experience in Toastmasters? What are you good at now that you never thought you would be just 3 short years ago?
I would say my confidence in giving presentations and feeling secure in my innate ability to perform is
Hmm.
something that has greatly been magnified. I
Mm.
certainly did not really believe that I could, and I also learned that I had the ability to inspire people. I could get up and my words could really move them. And I didn't think that that was something I could really do.
Right. And I want, listen, everybody, if you've never visited a Toastmasters meeting, it's really exciting. There's all these different components, and we're gonna tick them off really quickly to give you an idea of what's going on there. The counter, that was the thing I found most intimidating when I first began. The
Yeah,
report
because
from
you use a lot of crutch words, Loren.
I know. Well, but you know what? Because the thing is, though, that's just here, because here I'm having a conversation. But if I'm on a major stage or if I'm recording something, it's a lot different. But the thing is, I'm not nervous about it. And I know that the real thing is just resonance. If your message resonates with your listener, you don't have to be perfect. You
Oh,
really
that's
don't.
absolutely true.
You do not, because the truth is all that matters. And if your words, your message is landing. So the thing about it is, but do I want to constantly keep my chops? Then yeah, I go there, and to be honest with you, I go for the fellowship. Bye, honey. Have a good
Oh,
day.
that's true. You're right. No, there's a huge social component. I think a lot of people, even as they improve, they stick with it for years and years because you make friends. It becomes like a second family.
Exactly. And I'm glad you said that about crutch words and stuff, because I want people to understand, as of January, in the last 4 years, I've done over 914 paid public keynote speeches. So it just goes. I say that because if somebody is sitting down and they feel like, well, I'm not ready yet, I still have problems, and this and the other, it's not going to stop you from getting your message into the hearts and the minds of the world. Know this. You can watch Jimmy Fallon, and count all the things that come out of his mouth, but it doesn't stop
Right.
him from
No,
making
you're
seven
absolutely
figures.
right. And that's why, like, we teach at Toastmasters, this is where you come to screw it up.
Exactly.
So if
Exactly.
you have to give a presentation in front of your boss at work, if you have to give a toast at a wedding, if you have to do any sort of public
Anything.
speaking,
Church.
especially if you're being, even
Church.
especially if
Yeah.
you're being paid, you work
Exactly.
for a company and they're sending you out there and people are spending money, you're going to practice it in front of the group. You're going to screw it up, and that's okay. You need to get past that so
Yeah.
that when you're out there in front of them, even if you're still making some mistakes, you're speaking with authority and you
That's
feel
true.
like your
Well,
message is
it's
going to hit them.
storytelling. It's storytelling. It's you learn how to tell a really great story. And as long as you can keep your audience with you and they don't tune out along the way, that's all that matters. As long as they cross the finish line with you and they get this part, the moral of the story is, then you've done your job. But another great thing about that I've found over the years with Toastmasters is that it makes you aware of so many different shades of what it takes to speak, and also not just speak, how to effectively listen, because when you're the evaluator, and you're one of the evaluators, you have to evaluate someone. It's I felt very uncomfortable at first. I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm going to find out here in a second.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to talk about that because you're absolutely right.
Right, because when you're listening, your job is to pick apart someone's work. You're sitting there and you're like, oh, nope, It can be a little bit daunting at first, but it's very
right. This
helpful.
worked, this didn't work.
Right. So how did you feel when you first started, when people would give you that feedback that you get in Toastmasters?
I'll be honest, I was a little bit deflated. Because the way it works is, there's two segments to a meeting. There's the prepared speeches where you got anywhere from 2 to 5 people go up there. They've been working on a speech as a project. It could be a management presentation. It could be a humorous story. It could take it could take so many different shades. There's literally dozens of different types of speeches you can give. And then someone is assigned to evaluate you. So they've got to go up for 2 to 3 minutes and they've got to give you feedback. What was good, what could be improved, how to challenge yourself. And everyone usually writes notes and will give you something back. But this evaluator is going up and doing a formal presentation in front of the whole group. And when they say negative things, it can sting for sure. And I know the first couple of speeches I did, I know I didn't do a very good job. I was very new to it. And even now, sometimes I give a speech, I'm like, wow, that was great. It resonated. And people find things in there that you didn't necessarily see. And they're supposed to be honest about it. You don't want to just be an echo chamber and tell someone, oh, this is wonderful. It's the best speech I've ever heard. Thank you so much. How are they supposed to improve from that?
That's true. But
they're going to say, well, why am I even here? I guess I really am. That there's nothing
never going to be able to do this. Right. But the good part is where every time you get something constructive, you also get something reaffirming, something, because it's not just, oh, this was wrong. This is wrong. You also hear from people in the club about what was right. And so you have something to build on. That's what I always loved about it. And I can only speak from my own experience, but I do remember all those years back in the Air Force that it was I think it was a captain in my office that invited me, and he was very supportive. Every week to come back. And once you get past your own insecurities, you're going to love what you're doing to improve yourself. And he was true. He was right about that. So there's the time. I also love the table talks.
The table topics are excellent.
So talk about what that's all about.
Yeah, so a lot of people say that's their favorite part of the meeting. So someone is designated the topics master, and they will go up and they will ask a question, and they'll just call on someone. Sometimes they'll ask for a volunteer, but a lot of times they'll just say a name, point to you, and you've got to get up, and for 1 to 2 minutes, you have to give an off-the-cuff answer and basically give like a really short speech. And that helps you get better at, what happens when you're in a work meeting and your boss calls on you and says, hey, what do you think about this? And you've got to just immediately speak. You haven't had time to do the research. You haven't had time to write everything out and get it perfect. You got to just go up there and perform.
Right.
It's just like when you're at an open mic night. Let's say you're a comedian. A lot of times the audience will respond to something and you've got to just give something off the cuff. You're going to have prepared material, but it's going to go in different directions. It's going to be an organic experience. And Table Topics is designed to make you uncomfortable. We're going to get you out of your comfort zone, and you're just going to have to, whatever the question is, it could be based around a theme, it could be philosophical, it could be personal. you've got to just answer it. And
Right.
they encourage you to speak for at least 1 minute and try to keep it to 2 minutes. And it's something that people initially find very, very intimidating.
Of course, that's true. I was one of those. Now, you're a club president and you're also an area director. So you would be able to speak to this next topic, which is
Sure.
obviously not all clubs are created equal. So what would you say to a person who is curious about the Toastmasters experience and about finding the right fit? I mean, because if you I know a lot of people visit one club and they go, oh, it's just, they weren't friendly enough for me, or no one said anything, or whatever it was. And then,
Right.
and oftentimes we'll use stuff like that as our own excuse not to do better. But how would you recommend a person go about finding the right club, and how do you know it when you find it?
That's an excellent question. So I think a lot of times you go to toastmasters.org, you go to find a club, and you look for clubs that are in your area. And usually you can search within 25 miles up to 150 miles from wherever you live, which is pretty amazing. The search engine is excellent. Pick out a couple of clubs, see what days they meet, what the best times are. Go and visit them. And if something turns you off, you don't like the experience, go to a second club, go to a third club, and see where you really gel with the people.
Mm-hmm.
Where you feel good. Don't leave it to just, don't make it a one-up. Before I joined, I went to 4 clubs. And after that, I was like, I've seen a lot of the local clubs in my area. These are the people who made me feel the most welcome, who I seem to get along with the best. If a club is inclusive, if they're doing the right things, if they're putting forth a good program, then you're going to want to go back. Every club is going to sell itself. And I would say just keep going until you find one that it's just like with Goldilocks, right?
Mm-hmm.
With the porridge, like this one is just right. This one is too cold, too hot. This one's just right. Find the one that is your perfect porridge.
Exactly. And you've also got to hedge your bets, so to speak, by, if you're an early riser, find a club that, if that's where you have like this, because I know at one time I had found a club that was a lunchtime thing, but in my work, there was always something that went over. And so I'd find myself not wanting to go because I was 10 minutes late and I didn't want to walk in that. And I also found myself not willing to volunteer for something the next week because I didn't know if I was going to be able to be there early enough to execute or on time. So what my sponsor, if you will, recommended was that I find a club that fit my schedule, because I believe in this. A lot of people we have a desire to do things, but we don't. You've got to make sure that what you're doing is you set it up to bring joy to your life, not more anxiety. And I had chosen a time slot that was creating anxiety. So it wasn't, and I could have very well said, oh, screw Toastmasters. I can't do this. And it wasn't that it was Toastmasters. It was the time of the club meet that I had chosen. And I found an early morning one instead, which started my day, and it was much more effective.
Yeah, I was going to add something to that. Mm-hmm. So Toastmasters clubs meet at all times of the day. There are early morning clubs at 7 a.m. There are clubs that meet in the middle of the day, and there are clubs that meet in the evening for people, who caters to professionals coming after work.
Right.
So you could find clubs at 7 a.m. You could find clubs at 7 p.m. So absolutely find one that fits your schedule. The first club I joined that I'm now the club president of, Manhasset, Port Washington Toastmasters on Long Island. One thing I liked with them was they met every week. So some clubs meet every week, some meet every other week, some only meet once a month. And you're going to get out of it what you put into it. So you want to be as active as possible, and you want to find a club. If you think you can go every week, do an every week club, because the more times you get up there, the better off you'll be, the more you're going to improve. So when it comes to time slots, you're absolutely right. You've got to find one that makes the most sense.
Right.
And for me, this club that I'm now president of, it was a 5-minute walk from the train station after work. I was working in the city. I could take the Long Island Railroad, and it was a 5-minute walk. And then I could easily get back and take a train back to get home. So it was super easy. It met after I was done with work.
And they're everywhere.
Checked off all the boxes for me, but everyone's different.
So when a person first says, okay, yeah, I'm in, this is for me. Now, I saw a couple people. Karen said she'd be scared shitless. Shelly Dale didn't hold us up. She just said it straight out there. I was scared shitless, and I've got to check out Toastmasters. Now, I want you to know, everybody, that when you get there, it's not like you're going to be just thrown into the pit of, lions. You're going to be, if you do start and you join, you're going to be given, okay, let's talk about the manual, how you move through and the different types of speeches. And I know it used to be where you're given someone like a sponsor.
Oh, like a mentor.
A mentor, a person who works with you and is there with you to help answer questions and alleviate concerns or fears. So how do people get matched up, David, when they come there? You're a president of a club. So how do you go about that?
So mentoring is a purely optional process. Some people go in and the next week they want to give a speech and they want to do it at their own pace, go up there and just have the group evaluate them. And they don't necessarily want someone over their shoulder. But for other people, they want someone to maybe go over their notes, give them a little back and forth. And before they get up there, reassure them. Maybe they'll perform in front of them. Maybe they'll have a phone call. They'll meet over Zoom or Skype. They'll go through the materials, and it'll just be someone to kind of be a coach.
Right.
And if someone comes to the club and they're interested in that, they'll come to me or they'll come to the vice president of education. And because we will let them know from the very beginning when they join, we have mentors here to help you. And I generally have between 6 to 8 people that I've reached out to who have been veteran members of the club. And hey, are you interested in mentoring someone? So as soon as the opportunity comes up, I know I have a pool of people I can go to. And it depends. I'll recommend someone, and they'll reach out to them. They'll start talking, and if someone says, "Hey, could I try someone else?" It's easy enough to switch them. Mm-hmm. And if someone says, "Hey, I did this one speech. This person helped me out a lot. I'd like them to stay with me for a second or a third speech." That's absolutely fine. There's no strings attached.
Now, I would bring this up because I've seen this work in both ways, for someone and against someone. Let's say, for instance, a person is pretty tenacious. They want to get going. They want to get all their speeches out there. One of those overachievers. I want to check off and get this many speeches done as quickly as possible. Then you might not want to join a club that has a lot of members, because you're going to have to wait because there's only so much time in every meeting to do that. And I remember I was in a club that had a lot of people, and there was a girl there who she wasn't able to get up as often as she'd liked. So someone suggested that she either join another club in addition to, so she could get up and do speeches more frequently, or go find a club that just fit her needs better. Now, because there are clubs, I've been to a club where it was like a small club, but the problem for me was that it was always the same couple people. Every week I heard the same person speaking almost, because there wasn't that many. So, you visited a lot of clubs. Did you experience anything? Well, you probably didn't go back more than once.
Well, actually, I tried to revisit. Actually, of the 60 or so clubs I visited on the initial tour, I revisited about 16 of them.
So as a president, David, do you know what I'm talking about, though?
I do.
When I say not all clubs are equal, and we're not trying to paint a fake picture for people, I want them to really go and find something that works for them. Because I know if you find that great fit, it could be something you'd stick with for the rest of your life.
No, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And for me, it certainly was life-changing. And a lot of other people have said the same. Yeah. So I agree with you. I think if you want more speaking opportunities, joining a second club is certainly a good idea. We try to encourage, at least at my club, and I think most clubs will do this, because you don't want to keep hearing the same person. Let's say you're an every week club and someone wants to speak every single week. We try to say, don't speak 2 weeks in a row or 2 meetings in a row. Give an extra gap so that way you can fit more people in. Mm-hmm. It's easier to accommodate their schedules, and you don't feel like people are just coming up talking about the same things and it's always the same lineup. Okay. Now, I think that's one of the best ways to do it.
I agree.
People. I mean, it's of course we can't force it on you, but try not to speak every week or every meeting. Try to, at least, because we do these schedules, weeks in advance. So, hey, maybe instead of next week, sign up for the following week, and next week, how about evaluate someone?
Exactly. And
Or
there's
be the
lots of jobs.
toastmaster, be the host of the meeting, run the table topics, be the grammarian or the counter. Take another role because that helps you too.
Tell people what the grammarian is and what their job is.
Sure. So the grammarian typically will introduce a word of the day and they'll define it, they'll put it in a sentence, and you're encouraged when you go up to give your speeches and when you answer a table topic to try
Yeah.
to use that word somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll also listen for any incorrect grammar that you give, as well as on the positive side, interesting things that people may have said, things that were very
Right.
poetic,
Right.
interesting turns of phrase. And they'll record all of that. And then at the end of the meeting, they'll give a report. So the reports are going to be your timer. Did everyone stay on time? You had 5 to 7 minutes to give a speech. Did you stay in that time frame? Did you go past it? Because it's important. If you're
Very
giving 10
important.
minutes to give a speech and you go over, it doesn't speak well of you, and it shows a lack of discipline in being able to communicate your message. And the grammarian, you will say, these were incorrect uses of grammar. These were really interesting things that were said. Here's how many people used the word of the day. And they'll talk about all these things at the end of the meeting. And it's interesting to see what they pick up on.
And I'll tell you that timing, you guys, you think it's not something, but it's not just for if you're a professional speaker, but anywhere where you're presenting, breakout sessions, training sessions, anything like that. Because I remember I had a gig in, I think it was San Diego, and there were 9 speakers, and I took the anchor because I don't have a problem with it. Usually they have me open, but I'll take the anchor, and but that was the last time I volunteered for that because you get one speaker that's 4 minutes over, another that's 12 minutes over, another that's 7 minutes over. By the time you get to a 4 o'clock presentation, it was 6 o'clock before I was even ready to hit the stage. And the venue people were in there breaking down the beverage stations because they were supposed to be out at 6, and I'd flown all the way across the country.
And you reserve a conference room and you only have a half hour and there's a bunch of people that got to go up and give their PowerPoints and it runs over and you have to cut someone out because another group needs to use it.
That's right.
If everyone works on staying on time, then you get the maximum amount of information.
Exactly.
You get the content. You're not missing anything. You learn collaboration. You've all got to work together. It's not just about you.
Exactly. And in this day and age where more and more people are forced to run to the Zoom pool, these are all attributes that I guess that's, for lack of a better phrase, attributes that everybody can benefit from being aware of and having a command of. When you're on a Zoom call, especially you people that have the free Zoom, if you're in there, sometimes, it's going to cut you off or whatever. So you got to be able to get done. But also you want to be able to achieve your objective, which means if you have 9 people on the screen, they must be there for a reason. So you want to make sure everybody not only has a chance to speak, but a chance to listen and respond to those who have spoken. So timing is everything. Next question for you, Mr. David, is somebody out there may be going, well, I'm 15 or I'm 17 or I'm 70. Is there an age minimum or maximum that fits into Toastmasters? Is it, can you ever be too young or too old?
That's an excellent question. So for Toastmasters clubs, generally 18 is the minimum.
Okay.
But if you want to participate and you're younger, there's something called youth leadership, where Toastmasters will actually go into the schools, they'll work with the educators, and they'll sort of have like a junior club.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It's
funny. Even in Toastmasters, a lot of people don't know about it.
Right.
It is something that we're encouraged to do, to run these youth leaderships, so that even, if you're really precocious at 12 years old and you want to get into this, by the time you're 18, you can join one of the official clubs. But before then, they'll help the local either teachers or administrators run basically. It'll be in many ways, it'll resemble a Toastmasters club, but they focus more on different types of exercises. Instead of prepared speeches, maybe you'll do more acting exercises, more speaking exercises. They try to make it more fun.
Good for kids so that they can groom their way in. Now, I know that Toastmasters also has competitions. If you're a competitive kind of person and you need that thing and that dangling carrot in front of you to put some fire under your butt to become better, there's always that. And I mean, talk about it. And I know that some of the people who are international champions have changed their lives because of winning those things. Talk about those competitions. Have you been in any?
Sure. Yes, I have. I haven't performed at the international level. So back to what you were saying before, there's no age maximum.
Okay.
And in fact, on the international stage, once you get through the club level and the area, the division, and the district, so you start at the club level, and there'll be a speech contest. Usually, they'll give you a 5 to 7 minute speech that you can give on any topic.
Okay.
So you go up at the club, you compete amongst your peers, and whoever wins goes up against all the other clubs in the area, which is usually 4 or 5 clubs.
Okay.
That's a second competition. If you win that, then it's the division. Then it's maybe 30 clubs. So it just becomes a bigger and bigger region.
Is that like in your state? So you keep working your way to the edge of your state.
That's correct.
And
then if you win that, then you move on to the region, which will be a group of states. And eventually it goes international. So the international, it's in a different place each year. This year was supposed to be in Paris, but they had to obviously cancel it, but they're still holding it virtually.
Okay.
And in the US, it could be anywhere in the world because there are Toastmaster clubs in 178 countries.
Wow.
So you can be speaking in Zimbabwe. There are Toastmaster clubs there, believe it or not. So you work your way up. There's usually 7 levels to get to the international stage and go up against the best of the best. And in 2008, there was a 70-year-old man who competed at the international level. He was the oldest competitor.
Wow.
They had. And he actually just recently passed, maybe about a week and a half ago. And
really,
a beautiful memorial. His name was Charlie Wilson in Pennsylvania. And I was actually at his advanced club. I visited them just the other day, and they had a beautiful tribute where all the members spoke about stories about him and their memories. And they had a whole video presentation. It was beautiful. But he was someone who was very intimidated. He had never really been into public speaking. And then it became like a monster. Once he got into it, he really got into it, and he went all the way to the top. Wow. He didn't get the international level, but he was one of the finalists.
Right. And, one of the great things about Toastmasters too is outside of the obvious with the speaking and improving yourself from all directions is that you meet some of the best people you could ever meet. You feel at home and at peace. Doesn't matter if you're a stay-at-home mom, a student, or, a judge or a CEO of a company. Once you get inside the Toastmaster Club, inside those rooms, it is the great equalizer. Because you get to see that there are talented people who have never done this before that are just naturals. You get to see that there are people who run huge organizations and they're just as intimidated or nervous as you are, and everything in between. And
there's a lot of English second language speakers as well. People who English is their second or third language, and they're trying to get really good at English.
That was something I didn't realize that until I visited Winter Haven, that there were so many English as second language participants or club members. I was like, wow, the diversity is just off the hook. So I really thought that was great. So
you are so right, Loren, that it is the great equalizer, because even just within my club, and this is true of every club, there are college students, there's engineers, there's real estate salespeople, there's stay-at-home moms, there's doctors, there's people from all walks of life who are there for their own reasons. And when you're under that roof, you're all speakers together.
Mm-hmm. Regardless, I want to point something out. I want to point something out because, again, it may speak to someone who is listening to that little voice who is talking you out of an opportunity that could very well be something that changes your life. Now, yes or no, David? I know people who run a lot of the races like you, or they do those individual things. And I noticed, you've done so many of those. But the thing about it is, it's only you. You know what I'm saying? You're running, you're by yourself. It's not like a team sport or something like that. So, and even though you're an attorney, was there, when you started 3 years ago, was there just an itty bitty piece of you that was an introvert, where you wanted to open up the door to be more involved with other people to make something happen in your life? Because most of the things that you had really become proficient at were solo things.
Sure. Well, a lot of those races do involve large groups of people. Even that picture of me in Vermont, I was alone at that time, but there were other people who joined me.
Oh, yeah.
Parts of
they
that race.
Run beside you and with you, but you don't have to count on them to get your stuff done.
No, that's true. They might push you and motivate you, but ultimately it's up to you to cross
It's
that
up to
finish line.
you. So you were confident in one man things, but how did that compare to step? I guess what I'm getting at is you were so proficient at something like that where nobody runs the show but you, really,
Mm.
but then you get to Toastmasters and you're outside of your comfort zone. That's really what I'm getting at.
Oh,
Speak to
sure.
people who really need, how do you know that, how do you follow through when you're going outside of your comfort zone? It's so easy to turn around and run home and get back under the covers.
Yeah, I think it's really a matter of just continuing to get out there. I mean, sometimes you're going to get up and you're not going to give a great speech and you're going to feel like, this just isn't for me. I'm done with this. But you've got to sort of, put your tail between your legs. You've got to sit down, take a deep breath and say, you know what, next week I'm going to try it again. And I'm going to talk with people. I'm going to see what I can do better. Maybe I'll rehearse a little bit better. And, this is something I want for myself and I don't want to run away from it. And if you do run away to say, you know what, I've got a little space from it, maybe I want to try again. That's the only way you ultimately can achieve things. Even if you have all the best people around you, it's always going to be contingent on you to make opportunities happen and to make performances happen.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day.
So David, if you had to pull one thing out of the hat, one rabbit out of the hat that you could say is the greatest joy that you've received, the greatest improvement, those may be two different things, but what would that be in just 3 short years?
So for me, the greatest joy has been seeing other people improve. People who have asked me to mentor them, people who came in and initially they gave a speech where they really could barely keep their thoughts together. And now they're going up on a consistent basis. They've learned a lot. They're delivering their message well. That is really the most rewarding thing when you go outside of yourself. And that's what a lot of this journey has been about. Connecting with people, learning club cultures, helping clubs when they needed it, and then also learning from them. The collaboration aspect of it, all the meeting of the minds, it to me is absolutely the greatest joy. Realizing that even though you go into it with your own motivations, you take away a lot as well. And you also impart a lot. And sometimes you don't realize what you impart. People will come to me after and say, your words moved me so much. And I didn't think they would to that level. You don't know what people are going to take away. And some people are never going to say anything to you.
That's right.
But when you do hear it, when you do get that kind of validation, like, hey, you really helped me. I went up there, now I feel good about myself and you're responsible. If someone tells you that, there's almost no greater feeling you can have.
Absolutely. And that's a great point because, everybody, like I said, you don't have to have a goal of being able to get up in front of people. If you do something and you slay the demon or you kill the dragon of fear and intimidation of something that you don't have to get up in front of people to do it, but just the fact that you have quashed that fear within yourself is a great feeling. You'll be glad you did it. And then because, there are so many opportunities for us to get, people deliver eulogies. You get up and you make announcements at church. You might have to go to a town hall meeting for something that isn't right in your community. And what about if you get a parking ticket and you have to go to court? You know what I'm saying? And you
want to get your message across succinctly. You're not going to have a lot of time. So you've got to make sure your words count.
Exactly. And some people come and they don't know how to make their legs stop moving because they're nervous. They don't know how to quit wringing their hands or, playing with their hair or touching their face. There's so many things that it's a great journey of self realization and finding out how to be the best, learning ways to improve and be the best version of ourselves. And anything that can do that, in my opinion, is a plus. So, David.
And thank you for mentioning that, Loren. You're right. When you go to Toastmasters, it's not just about the content. Your gestures are observed, your vocal variety, the way you carry yourself on the stage, all of these different nuances. Some people don't realize certain tics they have. Ringing of the hands is one of them. Maybe it's that you shuffle a lot side to side, and these things are distracting and they take away from your message. And we help you see how you can be the best version of yourself. And no matter what that version is, whether it's to be a high-powered CEO or just like you said, someone who can fight a parking ticket in court.
That's right. So, David, real quick, as we round this last lap today, how do people go about finding the nearest Toastmaster club? I know there's a website. What is it?
Yeah, so it's www.toastmasters.org. And you go there and you go to find a club, and then you can put in your region. You can specify what days you're looking for, whether you want AM or PM, and you run the search and you see what pops up. And then usually there'll be a link to contact the club officers. You reach out, you tell them what you're looking for, and they'll reach back out to you. Right now, they're reaching out with a lot of Zoom links. Usually they'll give you like special parking instructions. They'll tell you what to expect at the first meeting. They'll walk you through it and make you feel comfortable. So you don't feel like you're going in there and, like you said, being thrown to the lions.
Awesome.
And sometimes, a lot of times you can call one of the club officers and ask them whatever questions you want before the meeting. They're very responsive. I was surprised when I reached out to clubs saying, hey, I want to come visit your club. 95% of the clubs I reached out to within 6 hours got back to me.
See, there you go. Great stuff. So, David, when is your next race?
Oh, I actually am planning on doing a 48-hour 100-miler next weekend virtually. Yeah, so I actually just signed up for it. I'm looking forward to getting back out there with fellow competitors on the courses, but right now it's looking like that's probably not going to happen until at least August, maybe September.
Yeah, but how wonderful that you still get to do what you do.
Yeah, no, I love it, and I want to continue running. I want to continue speaking. My own club is meeting tonight at 7:15.
Can you send me the link?
We meet every Monday night, and you can go to Toastmasters.org. You can find us. And right now, if you're anywhere in the world, you can come.
David, will you send me the link, though?
Oh, absolutely.
I'd love to come visit tonight.
Oh, you're welcome to.
Oh, good. Who else out there wants to come with me? Let's go. So yeah, send me the link. I'll put it on I'll put it in my on my page and also on the Bathrobe Moments page. I know I want to go. What time does that? What time does that meet? Do they meet?
So it's 7:15 p.m. Eastern Standard. So keep that in mind for your listeners.
Okay, that's 6 for me. Okay.
Yeah, right. For you, it's a 1 hour time difference. For others, it may be 2 or 3.
Okay.
And I will include the link. Let me actually, I'll put it in the chat for you. Yeah, and we meet every week. And like I said, some clubs are every week, some are every other week. But you'll get a chance to see exactly what the experience is like. And even virtually, it's a really great experience. We still have people giving speeches. Yeah, it's just fantastic.
Perfect.